What's up, Totem Hunters? Rob the Awesome here, and today we're going to be going back to our roots with a series that is coming back from the dead to make big waves in the community and controversial choices overall. That's right, the Best and Worst series is back with an all-new look and fresh topics that'll really get you thinking about the many perks and ideas that Dead by Daylight has overall. Right now, we're going to be taking a look at the plethora of exhaustion perks that the game has to offer and deciding which is the best and which is the worst. Disclaimer before I begin, keep in mind that my list is not the end-all be-all for everyone. Dead by Daylight is a game where different perks shine differently with different people. No one list is ultimately going to decide how you play. Use perks that reflect your gameplay and do your best to succeed in the trials. With that said, be respectful to any and all opinions that people have and keep a positive atmosphere that the community desperately needs. I'll be doing my best to convince multiple people that my reasoning makes sense. The point of the series is to understand different perspectives and acknowledgeably grow as players so that we can all become big brain gamers together. Lastly, as a thing specifically for this video, Vigil will not count as an exhaustion perk despite it being in the wiki, as it does not make you exhausted, but instead removes exhaustion time. With all that said and done, let's dive headfirst into this best and worst video. Here we go. Starting in reverse alphabetical order, how original. The first perk we'll be looking at is Sprint Burst. When starting to run, break into a sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 3 seconds. Sprint Burst causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds, depending on the level. Sprint Burst cannot be used when exhausted. Having this perk be activated every time you run can be pretty tough to handle at times. At one point, if you want to get a lot of use out of it from the start, you'll have to walk from place to place before a chase begins. But on the other hand, walking everywhere wastes a significant amount of time. If you decide to say screw it and run to the generator just to end up being the one getting chased with an exhaustion timer ticking down, then Sprint Burst will have no use. However, what if I told you that using the perk this way is not how you use it to begin with? Having complete control of when you use it is very nice, and it doesn't hinder anything if you use it well. Let's be real, 40 seconds goes by in the blink of an eye in this game. Sure, starting the trial off walking can be kinda slow, but if you know someone else is getting chased, you don't have to worry about using it to get to a generator or finding that nasty ruined totem. Eventually, you'll work on a generator and get the thing back anyways, just in time for the killer to roam back up and get shocked that you even have it. If you try really hard to save the Sprint Burst charge, you'll end up wasting more time than you could be saving with this perk in hand. Not to mention, you can even get the exhaustion timer to the last second and start running while in a chase to then let it rip in an exciting twist to keep the chases lasting longer and giving your teammates more time to get the generators going. The strategies with this perk can be insane, and it combos well with other looping perks to really get the edge against any and all killers in the game. So, with complete control of the perk and the time-saving aspects it has to offer, this perk spots itself higher up on the list. Since there's nothing to compare it to just yet, we'll put this perk right in the A slot and go from there. Going up the list, we have the latest exhaustion perk to hit the charts, better known as Smash Hit. After stunning the killer with a pallet, break into a sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 4 seconds. Smash Hit causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds depending on the level. Smash Hit also cannot be used when exhausted. This new perk sounds really exciting, especially since it gives you an avid time to really get away after stunning a killer. Think of it like this, you stun the killer, which keeps them stationary. You then use the 4-second speed burst to gain a huge amount of distance. Even when the speed boost is over, the killer will still decide to kick the pallet, giving you more time to create distance and give the killer lots to think about in the process. With all that distance you've made up, chances are they are likely to find someone else or waste tons of time trying to catch up, which is both a great and a bad thing at the same time. Smash Hit being the ultimate speedy getaway trump card for any and all builds in the game, it can also screw over your team too if you consider just how far you end up being. If it's a killer like Spirit or Nurse, who can phase and blink to your location with ease, then sure, they'll probably just keep chasing and all as well. But if you consider killers like Trapper or Demogorgon who simply don't have those speedy options in a chase, then it's likely they'll find another person instead. And who knows, that next person they find could be someone who was 85% on a gen and could very well have been the key to winning a game. Being fast is nice, and making up distance is amazing, but the important part of any chase is maintaining it to some degree that the killer really wants to focus you over the objective. Not to mention, the higher up you go, the less likely killers will will get stunned. You still actually have to land the stun in order for it to work, which, compared to Sprint Burst, leaves you at the mercy of the killer without having very much control over the perk. With limited control and poor maintenance in chases, this perk goes below Sprint Burst. Lack of control really puts this in the B slot. While still being good for self-survivability, sometimes thinking about the team is better than self-preservation. Up and over, the perk that's vaulting ahead is none other than Lithe. After performing a rushed vault, break into a sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 3 seconds. Lithe causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds depending on the level. And of course, Lithe cannot be used when exhausted. I think you get the pattern at this point. Much like Smash Hit, you're at the mercy of circumstance on whether or not you can activate this perk. Sometimes you'll be in an area where there are no vaults, thus leaving this perk out to dry. However, you can always rely on pallets being a part of any and all maps, which is a nice thing in the grand scheme of things. You could pair this nicely with a bunch of looping perks to get some sweet distance without necessarily throwing the killer off. You don't overdo it, but you also give the killer enough false hope to continue chasing you even though it probably wouldn't be a good idea. It even makes up for mind games with the killer when he fakes going one way to force you to jump the vault. That extra bit of speed will make them swing and miss, which is pretty awesome. It's ultimately just a better version of Smash Hit, where you don't have to hope the killer falls for the hit, but what about that 1 second less of speed boost by comparison? The reason Smash Hit has 4 seconds over Lithe's 3 is because the first second of Smash Hit is still going during the dropped pallet animation, whereas Lithe happens the moment you finish vaulting, thus both equating to a 3-second speed boost overall. Because Lithe is more obtainable and helpful to both yourself and your teammates, while still giving the killer reason to chase you, this perk goes above Smash Hit. It is still, unfortunately, a B-tier exhaustion perk on the basis that you still need to do something for the perk to activate, unlike Sprint Burst that gives the player full control at any point in time. Next up on this list is the Locker Heavy Hitter. Give it up for the one, the only, Head On. While standing in a locker for 3 seconds, Head On activates. When performing a rushed action to leave a locker, stun the killer for 3 seconds if they are within range. Head On causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds depending on the level. Lastly, Head On cannot be used when exhausted or when you've accrued stillness crows from being in the locker for too long. Oh snap, a way to stun the killer without the need for a pallet or decisive strike? Sign me up, is what I would say if there weren't so many things holding this perk back. For starters, staying in the locker for 3 seconds for it to be usable is unreasonably long when in a chase. If the killer gives you 3 seconds to get into a locker for you to then pop out and hit them, then you most likely had more than 3 seconds of distance on them anyways, wasting both your exhaustion timer and your overall lead. But what about in a setup, like for example, setting up decisive strike? If they take you out before Head On activates, then you get the decisive strike off, but if they don't, then you get a free stun. Alright, that'd be neat in a perfect world, but most high rank killers will just eat the decisive strike anyways to save time, thus effectively wasting your perk. But what about for saving teammates who are being carried near your locker? It'd be a nice one and done tactic to save someone from getting hooked, sure, much like a flashlight save would, but is it really worth using a perk slot for that slim of a chance though? Wouldn't it be more effective if you were doing a generator with the team or waiting nearby to get them off? Why use Head On at all if that was the case? There are too many what ifs, ands, or buts to make this perk really work out, and it ultimately is only used for the memes. And because of these reasons, this perk goes below Smash Hit. I'm putting this baby all the way in C tier for how useless it ends up being most of the time, with the added benefit of requiring too much to use it in the first place. It doesn't go any lower because it is one of those perks that can be a nice trump card with decisive strike and in a survive with friends. Otherwise, I'd stay away from using it altogether. Press E if you're excited for this next perk coming up, because it's gotta be Dead Hard. When injured, tap the active ability button while running to dash forward. This small dash covers a good chunk of distance and gives iframes during the animation, avoiding any damage in the process. Dead Hard causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds depending on the level. Lastly, Dead Hard cannot be used when you're exhausted, like basically everything else in this list. This perk is the ultimate trump card, something that you can completely control and gives the killers nightmares thinking about whether or not you actually have the perk to begin with. It's almost like a ghost perk. Even if you don't have Dead Hard, the killer will often wait a bit before hitting just in case. But when you do have it, it gets better and better the more experienced you are in the game. It has an unlimited amount of potential and uses too. Want to get that extra bit of distance to reach the vault or pallet? No problem. Want the killer to whiff his swing? Easy iframes. Want to style on the end game? Easy peasy. The only downside, however, is that it can only really be used when injured. However, that's the beauty of it. Even if you've looped the killer for 2 minutes and gens are popping left and right, every killer is determined to down any injured survivors that is close by. The better you are at looping, Dead Hard will improve your game further, and all while maintaining the want to keep the chase alive. No killer thinks to themselves, "Oh no, he used Dead Hard, I should probably leave." No. It only makes them that much more determined to down you, buying more time for your teammates to get the objectives done. And you have complete control of when and how you use this perk. Sounds awesome. For an Exhaustion perk, this is a dream come true, and unlike Sprint Burst, you don't have to walk from time to time to consider when you use it all together. Because the perk is a godsend for looping with endless potential in mind, this perk goes above Sprint Burst. Albeit really good, it continues to be an A tier perk due to its great control, but you can only really use it once in a chase against good killers, making it amazing, but not god tier. Falling down has never been sweeter. Give a round of applause for our next perk, Balanced Landing. When falling from great heights, your stagger duration is reduced by 75% and your grunts are muffled by 100%. Upon landing, you start sprinting at 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 3 seconds. Balanced Landing causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds depending on the level. Lastly, Balanced Landing cannot be used when exhausted, yada yada yada. I'll try to make this quick. This perk is exactly like Lithe and Smash Hit, except it happens when you fall from great heights. Sounds great on paper, but not in action when you consider that a good chunk of the maps in the game don't have any hills or heights to activate this perk. Maps are created with random tiles in mind. Every map has their traditional locations, but hills are all RNG if they are pure or not. Some maps on Coldwind Farm, Autohaven Records, Macmillan Estate, and many more all don't have drop-down points, and when they do, it's out of sheer luck that the map happened to spawn a hill over a labyrinth or pallet. This may be a good trade-off for people running this perk, but ultimately not for people who don't. Not to mention, forcing yourself to locations of the map where there are drop-downs severely limits where and how you can be chased. The only effective time to use this perk is when the killer is dedicated to climbing the staircase, but most good killers bait the drop-down, and if they get too close anyways, they could just hit you on the way down before the perk even activates. It ends up being one of those perks that are nice for those rare instances you're in those situations, but you can't always rely on hills being available on any given map, whereas Lithe and Smash Hit always have vaults and pallets. Because of the limited opportunities and the unsafe and unimpressive advantages it gives, this perk goes below Smash Hit. It's still a B tier perk as you can still use it when the certain circumstances arise, but it's certainly not an exhaustion perk you should succumb to over other ones in this list. Last but certainly not least, we got everyone's favorite endgame perk, Adrenaline. When all 5 generators are completed, instantly heal 1 health state and sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for 5 seconds. Adrenaline is on hold if you are disabled at the moment it triggers and will instead activate upon being freed. As an added bonus, if you're playing against Freddy, Adrenaline will wake you from the dream world upon activation. And get this, Adrenaline ignores any existing exhaustion timer, but causes the exhausted status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds depending on the level. An exhaustion perk that can be used with other exhaustion perks, already a massive bonus, but with it being an endgame only perk, just how useful is it overall? With this in your perk deck, you're limited to just 3 perks for the majority of the trial. Isn't that bad? Actually, not when you consider how you should be making your perk decks. The average player tends to do one of 2 things. Make an all-out build on one category in the game, that being like a full-on gen build or a full-on healing build or a full-on looping build, you get it. Or they make a jack of all trades. A little bit of gen rushing, a little bit of healing, a little bit of looping, everything to make sure that you're strong throughout the trials. However, people who often make jack of all trade builds usually save the 4th perk slot as their trump card. It could be an information perk, a perk not many killers see, or something to help with endgame to really get them through the trials. Adrenaline fits right into that category, no problem. Not to mention, it doesn't halt the looping category by limiting you to just it as the exhaustion perk. You can easily run something like Dead Hard or Lithe in your build without having to worry. Hell, it's advised you do, since it'll fool the killer into thinking you won't have adrenaline when the final moments mean the most. But what if you're at full health at the end of the trial, you say? Well, adrenaline is useful in any and all situations. Are you being slugged? Adrenaline pops you right back up. Are you injured and being chased? All better. Did you finish the last gen and are completely healthy? free speed boost to get you to the exit gates a whole lot faster. There is no scenario where running this perk feels like a huge waste of time, and what's even better is that the perks increase in value the more people run it. So if you're in a survive with friends and you all run adrenaline, any killer main will have their heart sink the moment the final generator is done. Albeit, Noah can counter this perk nicely, just do your totems and you shouldn't have any worries. Because of how godlike this perk can be with any other perk in the game, without limiting what you can do altogether, this perk goes above dead hard. Certainly an S tier perk and one of the better exhaustion perks in the game. Pair it well with some of your favorite perks and see just how amazing the perk can be in the long run. And those are the best and worst exhaustion perks in Dead by Daylight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you want to see more of these types of informational videos, leave a like and subscribe for more. Don't fret if this list didn't exactly match up with yours. Keep rocking the perks you're confident using, and hopefully this video spawned a few ideas to better your gameplay going forward. Remember to be awesome, stay awesome, and to have an awesome day. I'm Rob the Awesome, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao for now.